We're there. We're already there.
Yeah, apparently I'm trolling for some guy who has me blocked on Twitter. I need to
You're
get out of
you're
the
in the
chat.
You can't play in the chat. You have to do a show now.
Yes.
And yeah, we have a lot to talk about today.
We have a lot to talk about.
Welcome to Status Coup.
Also,
I am
hang
Ron
on.
Placone.
Might help if I do that.
What
Hi,
are you
Ron
doing
Placone.
now?
No, I need to. We were getting some audio from the.
Oh, okay. And your neighbor is cutting down a tree.
And my neighbor is literally cutting down a tree, which is terrible.
So the tree's going away. Good to see everybody. Share this stream. Oh, and by the way, we still got the membership. Membership May is still underway. Smash the like button. Smash it. And membership drive still underway. We're at 65. We're trying to get to 100. Go to statuscoup.com/join and know that your membership goes to fund independent on-the-ground journalism. We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to be talking about an update in Cop City. We're going to start there. Excuse me. We're going to be talking about Pelosi and how she's propping up Feinstein and what that means. We're going to be talking about the writer's strike and an update. It looks like SAG might be jumping in. We talked about this last week on the show. We got an update on that. We got a little bit of good news in the striking world. The stripper strike in North Hollywood has secured a victory. We got a little bit of really good news there. We're going to talk about facial recognition and how that's being used against poor people and was actually used to evict a single mom for attending night classes. Seriously. We're going to be talking about Bernie and the debt ceiling. And we're going to be talking a little bit about RFK and 2024, which I have no enthusiasm at all for 2024, none whatsoever.
Neither do I.
But we're going to be unpacking
with you on that, Ron.
We're going to be unpacking it.
Also, the two FBI agents that have been put up as whistleblowers. So today it turns out in testimony that they had taken money. They said that they had taken money from Kash Patel, who is a Trump aide. So that's kind of an interesting development in that story.
Nice. All right, so let's start with Cop City. Tina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So I wanted to discuss, we've been monitoring this. I've obviously gone to Atlanta. I'll be going back to Atlanta next month to cover more of this. But it seems to me that the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Atlanta Police Department are actually upping the ante on these things. Instead of listening to what people are saying, taking note of the fact that they have charged protesters as domestic terrorists, even though they've done nothing more but utilize their First Amendment rights. We're now upping the ante. They pulled out another law, and they're now charging 3 activists who did nothing more than flyering, which is clearly protected First Amendment freedom of speech, with charges of intimidating a police officer. So I wanted to pull up this Guardian article that gives us more of the details. So 3 activists have been arrested in confusing circumstances and charged under a little-known Georgia law, an apparent tightening of the state's criminal justice system in response to a movement opposing the building of a huge police and fire department training center known as Cop City near Atlanta. And for folks that don't know the background on this, we have done many reports on this. I suggest please go look at our other reporting, look at some of the footage and interviews we did when we were in Atlanta. But basically, this is a $90 million price tag. It's in the middle of DeKalb County's forest that's now protected. They're going to have a mock city there that they will build up to practice various tactics, urban warfare, 12 different shooting range. So there's absolute environmental issues that come with that. So there's been a fight that's been going on there. It didn't get any attention until recently when one of the activists was killed by a Georgia state trooper. The initial reports on that were that he had shot first and that the GBI state troopers and Atlanta Police Department responded in fire, but that turns out to be absolutely a lie because we now have the autopsy. There was no gun residue on his hands or his clothing, which would be the case if he had fired a gun first. And also the autopsy from the family revealed that his hands were in the air when he was killed and there were bullet wounds that went straight through. So the evidence is that that is not the truth. Anyway, so just wanted to mention some of that so people understand why this is becoming such a issue down in Georgia. All right, so the latest arrests are stunning and feel like overreach, said Ken Paulson, director of the Free Speech Center at Middle Tennessee State University. They come under a law making it a felony to intimidate a law enforcement officer and are in response to a printed flyer. It raises serious First Amendment concerns. The ACLU of Georgia wrote in an email, it is also part of a broader pattern of the state of Georgia weaponizing the criminal code to unconditionally protect law enforcement and to silence speech critical of the government. Carolyn Tate Tannenbaum and Abika Osei Vasal of Atlanta and Julia Dupai of Burleson, California were arrested the 28th of April after leaving a flyer on mailboxes in Cartersville, a Georgia town about 45 miles northeast of Atlanta. The flyer, exclusively obtained by The Guardian, called a policeman who lived in the neighborhood a murderer for participating in the 18th January shooting and killing of activist Manuel Paez Terán. Local police initially charged the three with stalking, a misdemeanor, according to the county sheriff's report. The activists heard officers debating whether to arrest them, with one asking, isn't this freedom of speech? And to answer your question, yes, it absolutely is freedom of speech. They have not done anything wrong. This is First Amendment protected. There's no two ways about that. But the sheriff's department was soon advised that GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and FBI agents would be en route to interview the suspects, according to the report. I doubt the FBI would be involved in this. There had been claims that they had been involved in the earlier actions in the forest, and it turned out that was not the case. The arrestees declined to be interviewed without a lawyer. Felony charges were added at some point. A GBI spokesperson, Nellie Miles, would not answer questions about how or why the agency became involved. Neither would the FBI. Events surrounding the arrest led Stuart Bratcher, another attorney representing the activists, to wonder, are they investigating a crime here, or are they not liking what people are saying and therefore looking for a crime? I think it's the later. Ron, this is an escalation, in my opinion, of I mean, as if there could even be an escalation. It was bad enough previously, right? So,
yeah, I mean, they executed a person and got away with it and lied about it. They're brutalizing peaceful protesters. They're building this ridiculous facility that shouldn't happen. It's going to be an environmental disaster. And now, they're cracking down even more because there's been so much freaking public outcry.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been able to shut down the public outcry, so now they're just continuing to do it by force.
No, it's growing. In
this
fact,
case,
it's growing. I'd say the more people hear about this, the more they turn up to. And we've had solidarity protests across the country, not just Atlanta now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the force in this case is they're just gonna, arrest people. And guys, this is the contemporary United States. I mean, and it's so funny because, you hear about all these free speech absolutists all the time, and it's like, well, who's talking about this? Yeah. This is like a gross assault on free speech right here.
A clear one,
and
too.
It's so funny.
Government.
Free speech is one of the few things that we actually supposedly have here in this country, and even that we don't have. You could look at what they're doing in Georgia. You can go to Florida where they're trying to outlaw protesting. I mean, so it's just really gross. But hopefully that movement continues despite all this. Hopefully they stop Cop City, and we will continue to cover this beat, even if we're the only one doing so, or at least among the only ones doing so.
Yeah, indeed. So they're going to be having a week of action, so we will be going to that. But I also wanted to mention that's not the only breaking news that we have in regards to Cop City. So one of the journalists that was previously arrested by the Atlanta Police Department while in the forest filming has now filed a lawsuit against the Atlanta Police Department. Let's pull up this Saporta report. I can never say that clearly. This is John Roosh, who I've spoken to a few times on the phone. He's a local investigative reporter there in Atlanta. He's been covering the story since day one, so he's really knowledgeable in it. But he obtained some exclusive video of what had happened with this journalist in the forest. So I wanted to play this. Can we pull that up, or should we do part of the article first? I don't know.
Just play the video, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the article. The video's if you scroll down. Uh-oh.
Give me 1 minute.
Oh, did you actually pull the video down? Because you're Colin. Of course you did. Colin, it's great to have you back. We were like really struggling without you. Why Colin does that, I just want to mention. So this is a guy, he's basically a documentarian that is based there in Atlanta. He'd gone into the forest because he's doing a documentary on this to cover some of the things that were going on, and was pushed. Oh, there we go. Let's just play it.
Sir, can you have a seat right here for me?
Am I being detained?
You are being detained right now. You're on trespassing. We're going to escort you out. Have a seat right there for me, please.
Thomas, and then the police department.
Okay, good to meet you.
Good to meet you. You can see your ID?
Sure.
You're under arrest.
Under arrest?
You're
Criminal trespassing. So put it down, put that stuff down on the seat. Put it down on the seat.
Guys, I didn't see any sign. I came in through the woods.
Down on the seat. So what press are you?
I'm an independent producer, independent journalist.
Of what?
Are your body cams running?
It is. Got one.
Just
Right. Would you be willing to talk to me regarding your involvement, your association with Defund folks? I'm just an independent. I'm working with the Atlanta police. You don't want to talk to me? Okay. Well, right now, just so we're kind of on the same page, you're being held for criminal trespass. I'm going to ask you to delete all the footage that you have today since it was a
I'm not asking you, bro. I'm telling you, bro.
and depending on the rest of this interview, you're going to be arrested. If you're cooperative with us, I mean, again, this is a story that I think you probably want access to both sides. Will you be willing to delete the footage from today?
That's kind of how we run the mile now.
You guys are journalists. You're telling me to delete my footage?
Wow.
The footage from today, that's right. I can't delete
I like it.
Wow.
You can't delete footage? Okay. All right. Well, I think these officers here maybe police arrest.
One thing is bad.
Arrest.
Good, because like I said, that's
He sees the.
we have to seize the cameras.
All right.
We have to see what he's got on there.
Freedom of the press, y'all. USA.
We're not interested in the other stuff. We're just interested in what you took of us. What did you take of us?
We're just asking you to remove the footage that you obtained today illegally of our officers.
On our property.
That's reasonable, right? No, guys, I'm a journalist. We're trying to work on you. It's up to you. Guys, I'm a journalist. So you're not going to show us the footage that you shot to the officers? I said, let's go ahead and seize it.
We got all.
We'll talk to our prosecutors and see what their thoughts are. And again, when it's time to read through your story, we're going to have the other side with some contacts on this side of the conversation. That's up to you. Major, if you're okay, just go ahead and do the citation. And get back to you. I'm sure I'll probably call somebody in on the road.
Okay, so much to unpack here, Ron, but right off the bat, it's alarming that this officer is like, don't you want access to both sides? So meaning that if you delete your footage of what you shot of us today, you'll have access to talk to us. It's like, bro, we don't need to delete footage to have access to what the police have to say about this. It's not as if you're going to disclose anything other than what you put out in your press release regardless. And then when he refuses to do that, they arrest him. So... Yeah. This is very alarming. So these two situations, I think, are absolutely upping the ante in what's going on with Cop City, as if they needed upping the ante as a First Amendment. Let's be clear: killing the protester was beyond despicable, and the worst thing about it. But I think when it comes...
and footage revealed the truth, so they don't want that to happen again.
Right.
They don't want any footage revealing anything they don't want. I mean, and this is happening all over the place. I mean, a similar thing happened in Ohio where they detained a journalist. You know, you see stuff happening in Florida all the time. I mean, this is authoritarianism, folks.
It's fascism.
This is fascism. This is how it happens. We're there. This is, I think in many ways we are at the beginning of the worst. This is like the beginning of like a true thick decline. And that's going to be a big theme throughout the show today. There are some spots of hope too throughout, but yeah, I mean, this is brutal.
It is brutal. And I think
there's a complicit police force. There's a complicit military. There's a complicit, FBI, CIA. Like you don't have anyone in your corner, folks. There are no good guys around here. And, I mean...
I think there's a few good guys, but...
I don't. I mean, I think among the citizens, I don't. I think among the citizens, yeah, there's plenty of good guys. But among the institutions, no, it's too far gone. They've proven time and time again they're willing to use martial law against their own people. They've done it time and time again in this country. The cops do it on a regular basis. And, it's like once the cat's out of the bag, it doesn't go back in. when people start singing songs of reform and reimagine, that sounds nice. That's a hell of a fantasy. But the rest of us are living in frickin' reality.
Okay. I think so a couple things here. I think the journalist, hats off to him. He did the right thing. He refused to delete the footage.
Yeah.
Was willing to get arrested. I would have done the same thing. I'd be like, no, arrest me. That's absolutely insane what you guys are expecting me to do right now. And we'll see where this lawsuit goes. I doubt that they have a leg to stand on, but here's the thing, Ron, and I've said this about the previous domestic terrorist arrests. I think the DA in the city of Atlanta and I think the state attorney both understand that they've gone many bridges too far. I don't think the intent of any of these things is to actually put these guys behind jail. They're going to get to probable cause hearings and not be able to pass muster. And I think most of these cases are going to be flat out dismissed. Having said that, they would have already achieved their objective, though, because the objective is to quash the movement, is to quash political dissent, is to keep these folks from coming out in the street and voicing their opinion about what they want to do. So if they're able to scare off these protesters from coming out and protesting or from people opening their mouths, that's where they've achieved their goal. Having said that, I think it's having a sort of an opposite effect because more people are getting angry and coming out and saying, no, this is way too many bridges too far. You're not going to intimidate us. You're not going to scare us. And I think this upcoming week of action in Atlanta is going to see even more folks come from outside of the city, from outside of the state to lend support. I think it's going to be a bigger deal. We're coming into spring. It's warmer weather. People have been watching and paying attention to what's happening. And, after these two things this week, they're going to be very angry.
I hope so. I sincerely hope you're right. Should we go on to Dianne Feinstein? Speaking of bright spots.
Speaking of.
Jeez, just great.
Where do we begin with this one? So, Dianne Feinstein, I'm giving you my personal opinion right now. Dianne Feinstein should not have run for office again. She should have retired at that point.
She's 90. Well, I think she's technically 89, but she's like 90 years old. Smash the like button, by the way. Smash. Oh, and leave us a super chat. We'll get to them at the end of the stream. And here's the thing. First of all, you have to take a step back and you're just like, what drives a person to work at that point in their lives?
I mean, she's not actually working, though.
Why?
Well, they're that, too.
I think it's just obsession with power at that point. Because it's like you have more money than you could ever spend in multiple lifetimes. I mean, if I make it to 90 or 89, I hope I do, by the way, I can guarantee you I won't be doing jack.
No.
I will not be working at all.
You and I will be at Comic-Con having beers. That's my retirement.
I mean, yeah, I'll be, I don't think I'll be at Comic-Con. I don't think I'll be I won't be anywhere near this country, but fair. I'll be enjoying my life, if I do anything resembling work, it would be like if I wanted to write something, like a creative writing thing or whatever. But at that point, I'd probably just be like, meh, I'm going to eat. Yet she's still going in. It's kind of frightening.
It's frightening that, number one, I want to take us back to the last California Democratic Party convention when this was happening, because I think having some background information on this will be helpful. There was a big chunk of the California Democratic Party, mainly the progressives in the progressive side of the wing, that did not want Dianne to run again. Obviously, other candidates were running for the seat, but at the time, the establishment in the party was calling them ageist for implying that she was too old to run for office again. But the reality is that she was too old for running for office. I mean, you even have staffers saying that she's not all there. So I wanted to bring up
that's the other thing too. It's not like it is. She has shown clear declines.
100%
she has shown she's not aware of her surroundings. She's not she's not cognizant of what she's being told.
Right.
She has demonstrated that. So it's not like, oh, it's just her age. No. It's what she's demonstrated.
Correct.
That goes along with that age.
Exactly. So in fact, case in point, let's bring up the LA Times article. because I think this outlines exactly that. She was, she's back in the Capitol after dealing with her shingles illness. And I think, part of the reason that people were saying she needs to retire is because she wasn't able to hold votes on judicial appointments. And this is a pressing issue for the Democratic Party right now. They want to be able to get some of these appointees in, and it's a very thin margin. Without her vote, they're not going to be able to do it. Any Republican not voting, if it's not a judge that has bipartisan support, they're not going to be able to get it through the Judiciary Committee. So it's important that Feinstein or somebody that's holding her seat has that. All right. So I'm going to get it to a moment why the establishment wants to keep Dianne in this position, knowing that. I think that's a different conversation. But to address that is not just simply her age, it's whether she's cognizant or not. I want to bring up this LA Times article. So with the help of a staff member, Dianne Feinstein rose from her wheelchair, gripped his arm, and walked onto the floor and cast her second vote of the week. She voted against a plan to nullify some criminal justice reforms the District of Columbia had recently passed, and then walked off the floor. Back in her wheelchair, she exited an elevator and was met by a reporter who asked her about her health. "Aren't you an eager one?" she said. Feinstein, 89, returned last week after months away from the Senate as she recovered from a shingles virus, a serious health concern that followed years of questions about her cognitive abilities. Her absence from Washington didn't derail the confirmation of President Biden's judicial nominations or the work of federal government, but it did cause angst among Democrats who were worried that the slim margins of the majority would make their work difficult or impossible, which is kind of what I was just saying. All right. So in a brief exchange with reporters after voting, she mentioned a problem with her leg, but on the balance of things said she was feeling better. Then another reporter asked about the well wishes she received from her Senate colleagues since her return last week. What have I heard about what, she asked. About your return, the reporter replied. I haven't been gone, she said. You should. I haven't been gone. I've been working. You've been working from home? Is that what you're saying? No, I've been here. I've been voting. Please either know or don't know. Okay, so clearly she hasn't been there and she hasn't been voting.
Yeah, she's out of it. I mean, she just, maybe it's dementia. I don't know. Like, I'm not a doctor, but it's like, yeah, she's not there. And the reason they're propping her up, the reason Pelosi is going to the mat for her, the reason they're saying it's ageism or misogyny is because they know that if she is to step down, Newsom promised.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, he's going to appoint someone. So
I mean, he promised he would support. I mean, it's not like some big reveal.
No,
he promised he would support. Or he promised he would appoint a woman of color. Barbara Lee checks that box.
Yes,
and so that would make it harder for their appointed darling. They want Adam Schiff because he's a corporate Democrat. He's arguably the worst of them. And they want him, which it's really interesting how, the corporate Democrats, they play identity politics whenever it's convenient for them. But here they are
use it as
trying
a weapon,
to screw.
Right? They weaponize it. It's not.
Well, yeah, of course they do. But they use it when it's convenient for them. But here they are trying to screw over a black woman to help out a white dude.
I know.
So isn't that interesting? Why isn't that racist?
Also, yeah, it's also like Pelosi's been saying misogyny, right? She's basically gone after the Democrats that have mentioned that Feinstein should retire based on some of these things. And Pelosi's response has been time and time again, you're being a misogynist. Yet here we have Barbara Lee, who would be the person that checks all those boxes. I do believe Gavin Newsom would appoint Barbara Lee to that position. I believe that. And yeah, you're right. She's defending the white dude. Pelosi's like, no. So she's been arguing behind closed doors that they need to keep Feinstein in play in that position because they want Adam Schiff to be the next person. This is original reporting coming from Politico this morning, so they got some inside source on this. So all of that checks the boxes, right? So just 2 days ago, Feinstein appeared to have no memory of the fact she'd been out of the Senate for several months. No, I haven't been gone, Feinstein told reporters from Slate and the LA Times who asked about the reception she's gotten since her return. I haven't been gone. I've been working. I've been here. I've been voting. So Feinstein's office confirmed that Prouda, this is Pelosi's oldest daughter, has been spending time with the senator as she continues to recover from shingles. but did not address any further details. Neither Feinstein nor Pelosi's office responded to questions about whether Prouda is living with the senator, why she was chosen for the job, or whether she's getting paid for her duties, or whether she's been encouraging Feinstein to remain in office. Regardless, the appearance of conflict associated with the caregiving setup could further perturb Democrats who want a more active participant in the Senate. Meanwhile, the questions about Feinstein's future are not going away. Well, of course they're not going away. So, they want Schiff. Pelosi has endorsed Rep.
He'd be
Schiff.
more of the same. I think he'd be even worse than Feinstein in some regards. That guy's a CIA Democrat, never saw a war he didn't like, doesn't do diddly poo in his district. He's a complete waste.
I mean, he
and
was
of course
challenged in the primary. And
maybe a girl. And she did good. She did good both times.
100%
and hopefully
gave him a run for his money. Absolutely.
Well, hopefully the one kind of bright spot is should he get that Senate seat, which I think they're going to do everything they can to make sure he does. But should he get it, I mean, maybe she has a real shot at that district then, because he'll be out of the way, obviously, because he'll have a different job. And, maybe they would actually maybe a girl would be fantastic in that seat, and she would actually do something.
Yeah, that would
for the
make
district,
some change that way.
Yeah.
I do think their beef with Barbara Lee is that she is much more progressive. She's not part of the establishment in the California Democratic Party. She's been very outspoken against
compared to Schiff. I don't know if I
100%.
Compared to Schiff, she's much better than him. Yes,
she's 1,000 times better. I mean, she's taken anti-war stances when they weren't popular. She's done a lot of support for progressive things. I think she's been 100%, on everything. No. But having said that, she is much more loved by the progressives in the state party than the establishment. And so, we have the KDEM convention coming up here in Los Angeles in 2 weeks. So we will be able to know more of what's going on, I think, then. No doubt there will be some protests planned.
If they tell us. I mean,
I'll be there, so I will listen.
I'm actually going to be part of some stuff too. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll be there for part of it.
We need to get you a press credential.
Oh.
You should tell me.
Yeah.
You're my cameraman.
All right. So let's go to where should we go? Should we go to the strikes first, or do you want to go to the FBI thing first?
Let's do the strikes first, because that's some good news. We need some good news, folks, right? We need good news.
That's fair. So there's some strike updates, folks. We've been covering the writer's strike here on the show, which is still going on. And we talked last week. We were like, what do you guys think about SAG? Now, just a quick refresher. I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but the writers are on strike, and that's the WGA, the Writers Guild Association. And SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, which is stage and film actors. And they are potentially broadcasters. They're potentially going to be jumping in here. They just voted to authorize a strike, which doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go on strike, but it means
the board will send out a ballot to membership to see what they think. We're also coming up on negotiations too. SAG-AFTRA is
June 7th.
Right. So different contract than the WGA, but they're planned at the same time. So it could really shut down the producers if both unions are on strike.
It'll shut down everything. Everything is already pretty much shut down. If SAG-AFTRA officially jumps in, which there's also a chance IATSE could jump in, which that's the stage and theatrical workers, like makeup people, camera people, stuff like that. If they all jump in, especially when you have Teamsters not crossing the picket line, I mean, it's going to shut down everything.
If they jump in, it won't be because they're negotiating their contract. It'll be because they're in solidarity, and they're not going to be working anyway because of if the WGA and SAG-AFTRA are all on strike, there's no work.
IATSE won't be working. So, yeah, right. I mean,
it makes sense that they would come out in solidarity 100%.
So we're seeing an increase. I think that my guess right now at this point in time, I do think SAG will strike as well.
You do?
And I do. And I think that it's probably going to go through the summer. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's not that bad.
Okay, so hang on. Full disclosure, I'm a SAG member for 27 years. So
how are you going to vote?
I can't talk about that. And
you can't say how you're going to vote?
Well, of course I'm going to vote for a strike, but I'm not supposed to. Technically, I shouldn't be. I just want people to know that I'm a member, so anything I say, I have that. It's just a fair disclosure. But, you know, our union has never, we've been adverse to striking, Ron, for a really long time. Like, there's been times in the past where I've been like 100% we need to strike, and I vote yes on a strike, and I'm in the minority. I don't know that the demographics of that have changed all that much. I do think there are probably more than there were willing to strike now than there were 10 years ago. I just don't know if it's enough. I don't know.
But there's so much more at stake right now because the writers are on strike, and so many SAG members are already standing in solidarity.
It would be the time to do it. I agree. Like, hit while the
I have a
iron's hot.
feeling it's
Use your
gonna
power.
happen. I have a feeling it's gonna. My guess, and I
now
think
you're the positive poly person, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Negative Nelly over here.
Well, I mean, maybe, because it depends on if SAG doesn't strike, it could prolong everything as well. So, like, let's say, like, SAG doesn't strike and production kind of continues along, and we know that the streamers will just lean on unscripted content or whatever else. This could go longer and be even worse. If everyone just shuts it down, I think they're going to have to give in, like, sooner than later. My guess is end of summer. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope it's, like, next week this thing's resolved. That's what I hope. I hope that SAG doesn't even have to strike. I hope that the threat of SAG striking is enough.
But hang on, if the SAG strikes, it'll be for a different reason than the WGA is, because they're doing their own contracts that they're not happy with.
Right. But still,
so so even if the WGA like sort of gets their deal done, SAG still might strike. I mean,
I'd be surprised.
I doubt it.
I doubt that. But the thing is like, yeah, they're different contracts, and there's different sets of problems. But if you're the studios and you're like, okay, SAG's jumping into this now the pressure's on that you can't. I mean, you're literally stopping Hollywood when it was just stopped recently, you know, because of the pandemic. I mean, so it's like, what are you gonna? I mean, there's no way. If everyone jumps in and it really just shuts down the industry, it can only go so long. They're going to have to give in. And I think, you know, you're looking at, it'll be a while. Like, it won't be right away because they'll hold out as long as they can. Because, you know, they have a bunch of content.
I mean,
but
but
when people's favorite shows come to a halt, they're going to feel it. And they're going to have to, like they're going to have to figure something out. They're going to have to figure something out. And I don't think any one entity is going to get 100% of everything they want. Unfortunately, the writers should get everything they want and then some, because all of their asks were totally reasonable. But of course, the studios are going to, you know, figure out ways to nickel and dime and be jerks. But, you know, they'll at least get hopefully something reasonable.
Fingers crossed. So we've also been covering the stripper strike that's been going on now for many months. Gosh, over a year now, almost, I think. I initially, it's been over a year. I initially went down and shot them out on strike over a year ago.
It's been 15 months.
Yeah. So, all right. So then they became part of Actors Equity. They got a deal with them. So Actors Equity took up their group and took it to the NLRB, but now they have won. They are now unionized. They won their fight. This is a huge deal because...
Here, let's see the headline. They frickin' won, y'all. They won. Colin, can you pull that up? So, dancers at LA's Star Garden Topless Dive Bar become the nation's only unionized strip club. So, the 15-month effort by dancers employed at the Star Garden Topless Dive Bar in North Hollywood to gain union recognition and become the nation's only unionized strippers ended today in complete victory. So, they're going to have they're going to have their first negotiation coming up in the next 30 days, and all of the striking dancers will be hired back.
Nice.
So they I mean, basically they won, and they had to strike for 15 months.
Lawyers representing the owners of the Star Garden Topless Dive Bar in a settlement here with union attorneys withdrew. This is a total defeat. Withdrew all election challenges, agreed to recognize the union, and will meet with Actors Equity Association. Yeah, it's a total win. 100%.
Yeah.
Good news.
So y'all, striking works. Striking freaking works.
Yeah.
It sucks that it took them 15 months. That really sucks. But, you know, they had solidarity. They didn't waver. They were out there.
They were out there almost every night, at least every Friday, Saturday, Thursday, like for weeks on end.
Yeah, and they made it happen, and you know, that's what's got to happen in this freaking country. I mean, it's like, you know, I always say peace, love, and a general strike because, like, I don't see any other way out of this. It's like, I mean, we gotta strike, and I'm hoping that the writer strike sees a similar victory. I'm hoping it doesn't take 15 months. That would really, really suck. And you know, here's hoping, but it's like,
Here's hoping.
that's it's the only way out of this thing. I don't see any other way. We can't vote our way out of this. We can't, you know, I mean, all we can do is withhold our labor because that's literally the only power we have. They have all the physical power. They have the military. They have the police. They have the CIA. They have the FBI. They have all the developers have all the power. I mean, all we have
Right.
is local organizing, localization in our communities, mutual aid, and our labor. That's all we have.
That's
Is
it.
literally all we have.
But there's more folks that are, you know, working class folks than there are anybody else. If they did decide to utilize,
We got the
power,
numbers.
You've got the numbers. 100%.
We got the numbers. So yeah, shout out to the strippers. Awesome. Congratulations. Well deserved. And that's freaking awesome. A little
is
bit of good
freaking
news.
awesome.
And
Little bit of good
we
news.
need it. We need it. All right, should we go to the FBI thing?
I think we should do the facial recognition thing.
All right, let's do facial
'Cause that's-
recognition.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell everyone where they can find me, and then we'll go to FBI and the rest of it. So we've covered this on the show before. They are using facial recognition and extensive surveillance on poor people in housing. Like, and their landlords are using it, and they're saying that, well, this will help us catch people who are acting out. And what they do is they put this ridiculous thing on leases where they try to restrict overnight guests that you can have. So they're monitoring if
Right.
people who aren't, you know, like if a boyfriend or girlfriend comes over, they're watching all that. And if you violate something in this unreasonable lease, they evict
They
you.
could evict
Well,
you,
Why
yeah.
do they do that? Why are they just mean? No. Well, yeah, they are mean. But what they want to do is they want to then have that property and jack up the prices. This is happening in properties that are like often rent controlled and would go back to market if a tenant leaves, or people that got grandfathered in, et cetera, et cetera. So they're using this, or they just want to get rid of the property entirely and they can't because there's a lease, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what they're trying to do with all this. This is the end goal for what they're trying to do. Let's go to the Yahoo piece. This is a very, very ridiculous, for instance. This is a woman who got in trouble because she was attending night classes. So facial recognition is used to evict a single
just
mother
scary.
for taking
Jesus.
night classes. Local officials across the U.S. are using surveillance cameras equipped with facial recognition technology to punish and evict public housing residents, often for minor or even trivial offenses. And again, these are things that shouldn't even be offenses. It's like, oh, we don't want you to have overnight guests. Well, what the hell? It's their
Right.
home. Per the paper's reporting, the cameras have overwhelmingly been purchased through the U.S. Through HUD crime-fighting grants under the narrative that heavy surveillance makes housing projects safer. It doesn't. According to WAPO, however, few of the law enforcement agencies that were contacted for the report were able to substantiate a link to lowered crime. Instead, the widespread implementation of this surveillance technology in public housing has mostly resulted in the overzealous monitoring and policing of poor Americans' daily lives. And for some folks, the consequences have been dire. So here's an interesting example. Can you scroll down, Colin? It got to the point where it was harassment. 33-year-old single mother Tanya Asubu, who was evicted from a surveillance-happy New Bedford, Massachusetts project for a comically trivial offense back in 2021, told WAPO. Per WAPO, surveillance footage bolstered the New Bedford Housing Authority's eviction claim that Akobo had broken a policy regarding how often a guest could visit overnight. Here's the thing. The guest in question was her ex-husband. What was her ex-husband doing? The ex-husband was babysitting their child while she, a bus driver by day, was attending night classes to become a lab tech.
That's insane.
So because her ex-husband, was babysitting their child, watching their child while she went to school, they evicted her. Welcome to being poor in the USA,
That's
folks.
insane. So my question, of course, now is there going to be a challenge to that? Is the eviction done deal? Like there's no coming back? Like that's insane.
I mean, she would have
Jesus.
to muster up the resources to fight back, and which I
Yeah.
doubt
Well, that's
that
a
she
problem
has.
too.
I mean, these are huge landlords and
Right.
huge, and by the way, most of the people involved with this, these aren't like
Mom
a
and pop
couple who
landlords,
has an
no.
investment property.
Right.
These are the big wig, like
Blackstone.
mass, like Gladstone, or Blackstone. Is Gladstone a thing too?
No,
think
that's where
Gladstone-
we go to eat.
Blackstone.
That's where we go to eat oysters.
Okay. Blackstone, not Gladstone. I've never been to Gladstone.
What? Okay, we'll have to go
No. All right. Is it here? Is it in LA? What is it?
then. Yeah, up in Malibu.
It's an oyster
area.
bar?
It's like, yeah, pretty much.
All right. I'm not hip to it. Is it a chain?
No. That's why
No.
you're not hip to it.
Oh,
Definitely
okay.
not a chain.
Well, where is it located? I'm hip to
Uh,
non-chain
Close
restaurants.
to Malibu area. Yeah, we'll go. It's really
Okay.
good.
Well, I'm not hip to the Malibu restaurant scene. All right. So yeah, but you get the idea. It's these big. It's not like oh, I have an investment property. It's the
Right.
big wigs. It's the
Hedge funds.
establishment mass
Right.
landlords. Which by the way, the stuff they do is illegal in a lot of other countries, and we see why. We see
God,
why.
the shit they do here can be illegal here, and they do it anyway. You know,
Yeah.
at a certain level, Ron, I think that they view these things as the cost of doing business. When they do something illegal and they get a fine, they made way more money than what the fine is in the meantime. So they're
Right.
like, okay, if we get fined, we'll pay the fine. You know?
Oh yeah, if they would have to, let's say in a hypothetical, they have to give this woman a settlement of sorts or relocate, which maybe they did for all I know, but it would just be a slap on the wrist compared to what they would get from whatever they
New rent.
wanted to do
That's
with
right.
that property, like
They would-
putting
yeah.
the rent at market
Right.
value, making
Right.
it, because also they'll use this as an excuse to not have it as public housing anymore, to try to make it
Right.
retail, whatever it is they're going to do.
Right.
And we've reached, I mean, we have a homelessness crisis in this country.
Yeah.
It is
We do.
obscene, and it's only getting worse. And it's getting worse because of stuff like this. Facial
Yeah.
recognition technology is in the conversation. You can go to banfacialrecognition.com. That's banfacialrecognition.com to sign the petition to get rid of this harmful technology that is not really doing any good, but is doing a heck ton of harm. So that's banfacialrecognition.com to learn more about these issues. Thank you, Colin. banfacialrecognition.com. And folks, since we're in an announcement phase, you can come see me live June 16th. I'll be in Madison, Wisconsin. June 17th, Minneapolis. June 23rd, Detroit, Michigan. June 28th, Bloomington, Indiana. June 29th, Chicago, Illinois. And for all our overseas friends, I will be at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival August 16th through 27th. And then I'm coming back home to my neighborhood in October 21st. I'm doing a comedy series in my neighborhood of San Pedro. Tickets and all information at romplacone.com. Check it out.
All right. Should we talk about the FBI now?
Yeah.
So
All the great institutions.
but this is kind of a crazy thing that's happening here. So, defund the police is something we've often heard from leftists that want to have criminal justice reform, right? It's sort of something they tokenized, or not tokenized. What's the word I'm looking for?
Promote, support, endorse.
Yeah, but when you create a phrase and that's the phrase that kind of takes over, there's a word for this and I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, you get... You get my point. So defend the police is mantra maybe?
Mantra. Okay, sure.
So definitely not a mantra that you've normally seen from the MAGA crowd. The MAGA crowd's generally been like back the blue, this kind of stuff. So the opposite. But now we're seeing a shift in the wake of January 6th, where right wingers have now been arrested and getting sentenced to some serious time in jail for insurrection and a host of other things. They're sort of changing their tune. So there's this hearing that happened this morning, and I wanted to touch on something. It's called weaponization of the federal government. Basically, they want to defund the FBI and the Department of Justice, which is, kind of hypocritical. To me, this is just an example of how the right wing doesn't see law as something that needs to be applied universally to everybody. They see the law as a weapon to achieve whatever goals that they have. And I think that that's incredibly problematic. And it's why all of a sudden they're saying defund the FBI, right? Are you following me on that? So I wanted to play, the first clip I wanted to play was Plaskett. So she's sort of doing some opening remarks here, kind of addressing what is this blatant hypocrisy, right? But when the FBI investigates conservative Christian white men who are actually threatening violence, suddenly my Republican colleagues are rushing to defund the police. So let's play this little clip just as an introduction.
The real thing that Americans need to be focused on is why. My Republican colleagues would like me and others to believe that they've suddenly found religion when it comes to misconduct in law enforcement. Give me a break. When the FBI is rifling through personal correspondence of people of color, when law enforcement tries to push policies to limit the freedom of people practicing a different religion, or unjustly pursuing people in cars who look like Philando Castile or my children, or who are just going about their business, or breaking down the doors of people's homes like Breonna Taylor, do you think my Republican colleagues care about that? They don't bat an eye. But when the FBI investigates conservative Christian white men who are actually threatening violence, suddenly my Republican colleagues are rushing to defund the police. The reason we're here today is because Chairman Jordan wants to make America Trump again. My Republican colleagues aren't here representing their constituents, not my constituents. They're representing Donald Trump. They're acting as his defense attorney, his campaign operative, and everything in between. This committee, this select committee, is a clearinghouse for testing conspiracy theories for Donald Trump to use in his 2024 presidential campaign. What's clear from these hearings is that Donald Trump knows just as well as I do that the danger to him and his MAGA movement is the rule of law. That's why this committee is working so hard to undermine the rule of law. That's why Donald Trump asked Jordan and others on this committee to waste our time and taxpayer money, asked the Speaker of the House to attack the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, for having the audacity to indict the former president on 34 counts of fraud. And that's why this committee hasn't given up its stolen election talking points.
So the one thing I want to make clear here is that they don't care about criminal justice reform, right? The MAGA group, Jim Jordan, who is putting this thing together, none of these folks care about actual criminal justice reform. And I think she's trying to make that point, and I think she makes it pretty well. What they do care about is weaponizing law enforcement against their enemies, right? So, you know, Trump and his supporters are very much authoritarian, right? They're fascists as far as I'm concerned. And they know
yeah, but so are the cops. So I mean, it's like,
right,
you know,
but okay,
there's
but
no one to root for here.
I don't think it's about rooting. I'm pointing out, what I'm trying to point out is, like, we've seen some folks saying, oh, wait, the MAGA people are getting it now, defund the police. And it's like, no, that's not what's happening here. They don't care about criminal justice reform. They want to get rid of the FBI and replace them with Pinochet's army. They want authoritarian rule. They want to use law as a weapon against their enemies, as simple as that, not as something that's universally applied across the board, right? So both sides have very different reasons for wanting criminal justice reform, right? And it's just not on par. That's the point I want to make here. So one of the things that they were saying today is that they were having 3 FBI whistleblowers come to testify. I did interview an FBI whistleblower about, 7-8 months ago, a gentleman named Mike German. He was undercover with right-wing extremists back in the 90s, became a whistleblower when some stuff happened, but I had him on the show. Very interesting guy. He works at the Brennan Center of Justice, right? So here's a guy that truly is a whistleblower and wants to, have real reforms put in place. So the guys this morning, one of the things that came out, and I'm going to play this video clip, we're going to play this in a second, Colin, is that they were taking money from Cash Patel. Cash Patel is a Trump aide. So the question remains, why would you be taking money from Cash Patel? Why would you be taking money at all? That is clear quid pro quo. I don't see how you would frame that any other way. So let's play that video and talk about it.
Couple different questions. We established earlier credibility matters, certainly for witnesses who appear before us. Mr. Boyle, do you know who Cash Patel is?
I do.
Have you received any money from Cash Patel or his organization?
I have.
When you previously met with the majority members and/or majority staff of this committee, was Kash Patel present for that meeting?
No.
To your knowledge, has Kash Patel ever spoken to the committee members on your behalf?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of. Was anyone present for your previous meetings with committee members and staff on the majority that were not members of this committee or staff of this committee?
My counsel.
Your counsel? Anyone else?
I don't think so. No.
Is Kash Patel helping you finance your counsel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Mr. Friend, what about you? Do you know Kash Patel as well?
Yes.
And did you receive any money from Kash Patel?
Yes, he gave me a donation last November.
A donation?
Yes.
Are you a charitable organization?
I was an unpaid, indefinitely suspended man trying to feed his family, and he reached out to me and said he wanted to give me a donation.
Did he have any, was he present for any of your meetings with committee members or staff?
No.
And how many times did you meet with the committee members or staff prior to your transcribed interview?
I never met with them prior to my transcript.
Did you speak to them on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so you spoke to them on the phone?
Yes, I spoke to them on the phone, corresponded.
Did you provide documents?
Yes, I gave them my written declaration.
Did they ask you whether they could share that with the minority?
I don't know. At the time, I don't believe they were actually in the majority.
Did they ask you whether they could share the documents?
I don't remember if they did or didn't.
I want to...
Okay, so now one side is going to say that they got money from Kash Patel because he set up a fund for them because they were unemployed and needed money, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, if that's true or not. It's hard to say at this point, but I do think that I don't think FBI agents should be taking money from Kash Patel or anybody in that world. Ron, what are your thoughts?
I think it's fine for FBI agents to take money from people in the political arena. What could possibly go wrong? I see no conflicts of interest there. I think it's a great idea. We should have a bake sale for them.
We should have a bake. Right. Even basically the optics alone are bad enough. I think there's probably more to this story. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this as is investigated in the coming weeks. But I also want to mention that, these were FBI agents that didn't want to participate in the investigation of January 6th insurrectionists. I believe that, one of them had been asked to look into open source information on somebody and basically came back and said there was nothing when there was a trove of information. So also, again, you have a bias. You're not applying the law universally. That's really problematic. Whether or not you think cops should exist or not, we can have that debate separately. But if you are in law enforcement and you aren't applying law in a universal manner and you show a bias, then you are problematic and should be suspended, which he was suspended for. So I don't know.
I think it's... I understand that you're calling for justice, but you're calling for it in unjust organizations that are beyond the pale.
I am? Were you saying this? You're making this about me? What's happening?
No, I'm not making it about you. I'm just saying it's like you're calling for a level of accountability that is totally right on and totally right. But these are institutions where it's like, it's...
Where there have been problems. There's a history. Let's be honest.
Problems is putting it gently. Problems is, there's a famous Game of Thrones memes where Tyrion Lannister is standing there and he just goes, "If you're looking for justice, you've come to the wrong place."
Right.
That's all of our institutions. If you're looking for accountability, you've come to the wrong place. If you're looking for honesty, you've come to the wrong place. If you're looking for transparency, you've come to the wrong place. If you're looking for decent law enforcement, you've come to the wrong place. The system is just rotted to its core beyond redemption. Just beyond redemption. And that's all. That's the cops, that's the FBI, that's the CIA. It's our corporately controlled and owned electoral system. It is a plutocracy to the core. It is rotten to the core. And I think sometimes it's like we're just trying to find the best part of the floating turd. And other people are like, this is a fucking floating turd.
So I think, to your point, and I think you're making a valid point here, a lot of these institutions are even failing more because they've lost public trust, right? Whether it's SCOTUS, whether
deservedly
it's
so.
No, I'm not disputing that at all. I'm just making an observation here. I think that at some point that destabilization, the lack of public trust, is just making the whole thing even worse, right? So it's sort of a cycle of just bad, right? So I don't know where this is going to go, but I was kind of surprised to hear them say that they had taken money from Cash Patel. Obviously they want to commit perjury, but this is a complicated situation. I don't think anybody here is doing these things because they want criminal justice reform. I think anybody that believes that's kidding themselves. We know time and time again that's been proven to not be
So
the
wait,
case.
are MAGA people actually using the defund the police slogan?
Some of them are. Yeah, some of them are. They're saying defund the FBI.
Kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. That's the point I'm getting at. So you have like some of these guys.
Maybe that'll. Well, I'm abolish the police. So hopefully maybe that'll
say,
get.
Listen,
maybe
I've seen
abolish the police will get more popular.
I've seen them say abolish the FBI too. So recently
I'm for that as well. So
we've seen some arrests of some neo-Nazi folks that I've talked about on Right Wing Insanity Report, right? And there's a guy, Robert Runda, who is part of the Rise Above movement, who has been detained in Romania, waiting extradition to the United States he will be going on trial for actions that he took at Charlottesville, Berkeley, and a few other places. But his followers are now saying abolish the FBI on the regular. So they've gotten religion, but it's not because they want criminal justice reform. That's the only point I want to make.
No, I understand.
Let's be clear that these folks could care less about innocent black folks rotting in jail. They could care less about racism inside any of the law enforcement departments. In fact, they are encouraging it. They want it, right? They want it to be a white nationalist country, a lot of these guys. So I just want it to be clear that this is not the right getting religion about criminal justice.
No, I understand that. Well, I think there is a phrase for it's like when someone gets something right for all the wrong reasons. I forget but I think there is like a word for that.
Broken clock. There's a broken clock.
No, it's not the broken clock thing. I think there's something else. But yeah, we'll go with broken clock or whatever. But
they would replace these institutions with something more fascist. I just want to make that really clear to folks. This is not
probably.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Pinochet's army, we've got you. We've got you right now. Let's get all the communists, let's round them up and push them out of the helicopters. That's exactly what they would replace it with. So it would not be the end of policing, let's put it that way.
No, of course not. All right. Well, cool. Should we go to
Bernie,
the RFK thing?
The 14th. No, let's do Bernie and others using the 14th Amendment really quickly. A lot of breaking news today, I know. So, we're facing this whole debt ceiling conversation once again. For reasons I don't understand, they want to, the Republicans want to use it every single time to, get rid of what they call entitlement programs, right? But it just doesn't make any sense. Number one, this is debt. This is stuff we've already purchased. You can't eliminate it. It's not going away if you eliminate Social Security, right? We still will have to pay money on this stuff, right? So, and that's also tangential and beyond, MMT and why this is even a conversation to begin with, right? So let me put that out there. But if you are working in that world and you believe that debt is important, I do not personally, but if you do, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's not important.
It's not.
We create our own currency, folks.
Right.
We create it. Even Trump demonstrated an understanding of that recently. Trump, for crying out loud,
Wait,
said
did he
something.
Really?
Stephanie Kelton showed it. She's like, dude.
Oh shit, really? That's
what the
funny.
hell? Like, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Broken clocks and all.
And the right wing, they use it, to go after quote unquote entitlements, which in the United States that translates into the bare minimum of social services, infinitely less than any other industrialized country. And, it's like they bring it up when it's politically convenient for them. And it's just, it's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
I agree. So let's play this little, Bernie Sanders had a press conference with some other senators this morning where they are talking about using the 14th Amendment to pay for debt. I do want to bring this up. If you're wondering what the 14th Amendment, this is the amendment that freed slaves, obviously, what that absolutely has to do with national debt. Believe it or not, in Section 4, basically it says that, let me read it to you. The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion, shall not be questioned. So basically, public debt should never be questioned. So basically, the argument here is we have this public debt, we have to pay it, we can't question not paying it, just raise the debt ceiling. That's the logic a little bit. So, but let's play this clip.
I recommend everybody read David Graeber's book, Debt. Just read it. Read that book. You'll never look at debt the same way again. All right, play the video.
Okay, thanks very much for being with us to discuss an enormously important issue. And let me begin by thanking the 11 United States senators who have signed a letter to the President urging him to use the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, if necessary, in order to prevent a default on our national debt. And those signers are Tina Smith, Elizabeth Warren, Jeff Merkley, Ed Markey, Mazie Hirono, Peter Welch, Dick Blumenthal, Jack Reed, Sheldon Whitehouse, and John Fetterman. Throughout the history of our country, the United States government has done what it is supposed to do. Not too surprisingly, we pay our debts. That's what we have always done. In fact, over the past 63 years, the national debt limit has been raised nearly 80 times, 49 times when a Republican has been president, and 29 times when a Democrat has been president. The debt ceiling was raised 18 times under President Ronald Reagan, 7 times under President George W. Bush, and 3 times under President Donald Trump, when the national debt increased by some $8 trillion with no strings attached. Bottom line, we pay our debt. That is what a major country does, the largest economy in the world. We pay our debts. And let's be clear, what the debt ceiling is about is paying money that has already been appropriated and spent. It has nothing to do with future budgets and future spending. You could debate that. This is simply a question of paying off what has already been spent. However, in an unprecedented and outrageous way, extreme right-wing Republicans have hijacked the debt ceiling process and have said to the American people, if we don't get our way and impose savage cuts on the needs of working families, the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor, if you don't do what we demand that you do, we are prepared to allow the United States government to default and bring our economy and the world's economy into turmoil. That's what the Republicans are essentially saying. If the right-wing Republicans force a default, it will mean the loss of millions of American jobs, interest rates on mortgages and credit cards will soar, and Americans will lose trillions of dollars in household wealth. As disastrous as it would be to default on our debt, it would be equally disastrous to pass the outrageous Republican proposals. Under their proposals, it has been estimated that up to 21 million Americans would lose Medicaid, ripping away the health care they need to stay alive. Over 1 million women, infants, and children would not receive the nutrition they need to stay healthy through the WIC program. Nutrition services, such as Meals on Wheels, would be cut for more than 1 million low-income senior citizens in this country. Over 640,000 families would lose access to rental assistance, and more than 400,000 low-income families would be evicted from Section 8 housing. 200,000 children would be thrown off of Head Start, and 180,000 kids would lose access to child care. 80,000 jobs would be cut at the VA alone, impacting the quality of care we provide to the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us. All of this is absolutely unacceptable. Meanwhile, while
end this video, how
imposing
much of this shit are we going to
draconian cuts
watch?
on
We're
some of the
almost
most
towards the end
desperate
here, I
people in this country,
Jesus,
the
fuck.
Republican.
This is and this isn't even directed at Bernie. This is so fucking stupid. This is so fucking stupid. This is such an unnecessary, self-inflicted wound.
It is.
And now it's like they have to frickin' stop the bleeding that shouldn't even be there in the first place. I mean, this country is so fucking stupid.
I can't disagree.
and we had a chance at a transformational presidency. You think it where we were at 2016, and now it's been reduced to this shit. My God. I mean, what the fuck? This is the rest of the world isn't even laughing anymore. At this point, they're just looking on in terror like, what the fuck are you doing? And we don't know. Twitter battles. That's what we're doing.
Twitter battles.
I mean, holy shit. What the fucking fuck of fucks? An imaginary bullshit fucking neoliberal half-baked economic idea that dictates our lives and takes away what little scraps are given to people.
I know.
And people got to go and opine about this shit. I mean, my God, when is enough enough?
I don't know. Ron, I've been asking that for a long time. I mean, honestly, a lot of our other problems when it comes to the increase in fascism and all these other things are directly related to the income inequality in this country. You cannot separate these things. And the fact that you have people that are fully employed that can't pay rent, I mean, I don't know where it ends. I don't know why the plutonymy in this country just keeps extracting more and more wealth. They know what they're doing. They know what the end game is. They know what could possibly happen. But I think at this point, Ron, they have scarfed up so much money, and they have so much money sitting in their bank accounts that if the entire country started wilding and like war broke out against them, they would have enough money to do whatever they wanted. It wouldn't matter. They don't need to sell any more widgets. Like I used to wonder, like, okay, so at what point are they going to stop? At some point they'll realize they're destroying the consumer base that they need to sell their widgets to. They've run out of highway when it comes to extending credit because everybody's got too much credit. They've run out of highway as far as chasing lower wages in other countries because those countries are now not lower wages anymore because they have an increase in their cost of living in their countries. Maybe it'll be when they run out of consumers in some of these other countries because they're still consuming. Like I've gone the gamut of all the possible things that could possibly not cause change, and it just doesn't change. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
It keeps getting worse. I mean, it is progressively gotten worse. In 40 years, I mean, we've had 40 years of Reagan and slightly worse than Reagan. The slightly worse than Reagan that we had was the Bush administration. Yeah, but even after the Bush administration, things continued to get worse because they left what the Bush administration set in place on autopilot. And that includes Obama, the hope and change we never frickin' got. And that includes Trump. And I know 100%. Some of you have this fantasy that Trump was anti-establishment. What a freaking fantasy. And that includes Biden, Rip Van Reagan, Biden. Oh, and by the way, 2024, which we're going to get into now. I guess we're going to talk some about 2024, which I like how some of you were having meltdowns in the chat before the discussion even fucking started. And that's going to be a non-existent freaking election, by the way.
There's not going to be an election. It's going to be Biden.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. We wanted to talk some about RFK or whatever.
Normally this isn't something I would have given attention to, except that I kept seeing these like posts in my Twitter when I logged in this morning, and I see people calling Kennedy, anti-establishment. Are you kidding me? He's part of the Kennedy family. He is absolutely the political elite in this country. That's just like he was born into a political family that is an absolute dynasty. Come on, give me a break. But beyond that, this idea that he is anti-war, that he's anti-lockdowns, that he's anti-RussiaGate, he's not anti any of those things. This is a guy that wholeheartedly endorsed Hillary Clinton twice, went out and stumped for her, like campaigned for her on the road, the whole 9 yards. I wanted to pull up some of his old tweets just so folks can see what I'm talking about. I'm not doing this to be the naysayer or the bad person or the hater or the, you just want to support Biden. Like, not at all. I'm just saying, let's look at this guy for who he actually is, because he really is not any of those things. All right.
All right, so show the stuff.
Yeah, Colin, can you pull up some of
Pull
those?
up the stuff.
Like,
Okay.
I didn't go hog wild.
This was
I grabbed
your tweet.
Yeah, I grabbed a few of them just to give
So
examples.
he did not. So he supported Hillary.
100%
He's endorsed Hillary multiple times, I believe.
Yeah, so in this particular tweet, he's basically saying, no, I've never endorsed Bernie. I always endorse Hillary. He's calling it right there. So a lot of people are like, yeah, he's like Bernie. I'm like, no, he's not. He's absolutely not. The next one is, so he was advocating for coronavirus lockdowns, right? Coronavirus lockdown hasn't just slowed COVID-19. It reduced lethal air pollution associated with mortality. When lockdown lifts, risk of status quo will return. It could worsen as governors weaken environmental regs and pour billions into polluting industries. Let me just say this. On this particular point, I fucking agree with him on this.
Yeah, well, and he said this back in March.
But having said that, everybody's painting him as like he was never supporting lockdowns. That's just bullshit. Yes, he was.
But he did at one point. I mean, he might have changed on it. I don't. So was there other materials you wanted to show?
My favorite one is like the Joe McCarthy tweet where he's like, what would Joe McCarthy do? I mean, come on now. Really? What would Joe McCarthy do? Let's pull that one up.
Okay. So this is like a RussiaGate
Yeah,
thing.
remember the conservatives' investigator zeal when Joe McCarthy claimed that there were a few Russian sympathizers in the State Department compromising our democracy? Whatever happened to those conservatives? WWJMD. What would Joe McCarthy do? This is a guy saying that the RussiaGate hasn't gone far enough. I'm sorry, but are you serious right now?
Well, so here's my thing, and like full
And
disclaimer.
There's a bazillion more. My point being is there's a bazillion more. This guy is 100% not anti-war. He's part of the establishment. And here's the thing I don't understand because I haven't been following this, I guess. Why do all these folks hate Marianne Williamson? Because her policy seems much more in line with what they want anyway. I don't understand this.
Well,
maybe somebody can explain this to me.
I can't. I mean, when it comes to 2024, my enthusiasm is at a zero. So, full disclaimer, I have been paying very little attention to RFK. I've not really been paying much attention to Marianne Williamson. You and Jordan wanted to talk about this topic today. So I did go on his website because I'm like, well, I should kind of look a little more into what all this guy is saying. All I kind of, my kind of just overall, like just sort of first assessment without doing a deep dive was I was kind of like, to your point, I'm like, well, this guy is kind of just a Democratic establishment dude. And he's known for his anti-vaccine views. And that's about it. So
being anti-war is a good thing. You're correct. I think Ron and I are both incredibly anti-war. I mean, I don't even think we have to say that. Apparently we do. My point is that this guy
I was gonna say I went to his website and and I just went to his presidential website. Well, I'm like, let's see what this guy is saying. Overall, I wasn't all that impressed. I don't know where he stands on, like, is he for Medicare for all? I don't know.
I doubt
I don't know where he really stands on healthcare at all. He brings up some nice things about the environment, but there's not, I mean, Bernie had the Green New Deal and it was very like there were timelines and everything. Right. I didn't see anything like that. I did
at one point he supported carbon taxes. No, I mean, this is a guy
that's
literally
cool. And
he endorsed Hillary Clinton twice. I mean,
who's I mean, hey man, I'll give the credit for the phrase where it goes. Tulsi Gabbard,
so
queen of the warmongers.
Yeah, he's so anti-war. He endorsed Hillary Clinton twice. Come on now.
So that's very. I mean that's cause for concern. On his website,
people don't change that much. And if it's just in interviews currently and he's saying stuff to get you guys to vote for him,
are you responding to me or are you responding to a chat?
Sorry, someone in the chat.
Because that had nothing to do with what I was saying. So if you're going to talk to the chat,
okay.
like say that first. Say, hey, I'm talking to the chat and not my co-host. Because otherwise we're just having two different conversations.
No, sorry. It's my bad. 100%.
So I mean, I looked on his website to just sort of be like, okay, what's all this? Because again, there's not. Now, by the way, regardless how I feel about RFK or Marianne or whoever, I think there should be debates.
Oh, 100%.
There should be debates.
Yes.
They should get to debate Biden. And I think it's terrible
I
that they're
agree.
shoving Rip Van Winkle down everyone's throats. They're coddling him to the nth degree. They're not allowing him to debate, or they're not allowing debates to happen. And
Yeah, no,
you
there
know,
should definitely be
I
debates.
think
Don't
that's
get me
wrong.
There should be a primary. I don't. I'm
And
not,
and I
I'm
don't
not
see
wrong.
how, you know, and again, I don't know. I know more about Marianne Williamson than I do about RFK. I agree with her on some. I disagree with her on some. I think she'd be a better president than Biden would. I mean, but there's not going to be an honest primary anyway. And as far as RFK, I don't see how he'd be any worse than Biden. I don't see how that'd be possible. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I don't see how it'd be possible. How could he be worse than Biden?
I mean, that is like a really low bar, you know.
Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware, but it's like, how could he be? You know, I mean,
but he could be. I mean, there are. I mean, I think Trump is worse than Biden in many ways, and believe me, this is not a defense of Biden by any means. It's not. I mean, God, I hate Biden.
I don't see how. I mean, they've both been completely abysmal. I mean, they've both been completely abysmal. I don't see. I mean, like, the one thing on his website that I did like that I read, and again, it's just verbiage on a website. Like, I did agree with some of the stuff he was saying about Russia, Ukraine, about how it's like, you know, we should not be using Ukraine as a pawn to intimidate Russia. We should be seeking diplomacy. I mean, again, that's just verbiage on a website. So, I mean, whatever. That's all I'm going by.
Not everything he says I disagree with. Like, I actually agreed with the one thing that was the lockdown. He's pro-lockdown. I mean, what he was saying there was correct, but I just find it funny that people are saying that he was against the lockdown, and I'm like, no, he wasn't actually, but okay. So, but my point is this: is I don't understand why we're at a place now where, I don't know, like in the same way that people got very culty about Trump, people get culty about their political candidates, and they just
Do you want me to tell you my theory on that?
Yeah, go.
So there's a book that I recommend called Anatomy of a Revolution. And it talks about exactly that, anatomy of a revolution. And it talks about how when you are chasing revolutionary times, which is the time we're living in, and that revolution fails, which is exactly what happened.
That's exactly
we had a chance at least a status quo shifting transformational presidency with Bernie Sanders once in 2016, again in 2020, and we failed. It failed. You know, I mean, we can talk all day about why that is, but regardless, it failed. And we got more of the same. We got more Reagan. We got more Reagan with Trump. We got more Reagan with Biden.
Yeah.
And we've reached a breaking point. This country, I mean, hell, half of the country makes less than $35,000 a year. We have a homelessness epidemic. Wages are declining and declining. People are just broken and desperate. We don't have health care. We don't have living wages. We're not doing diddly poo about climate change. It's a disaster. This place is just basically on its way to becoming a decentralized wasteland. That's where we're at. That's not an embellishment. That's where this country is. Yeah. So when that happens, what you see is people often cling to, you know, just fringe solutions. And so somebody like an RFK, which again, I mean, some people are saying, you know, like, oh, he's some big leftist solution. I'm not sure how. How is the guy? I mean, you know, like, and please explain how that is. I don't see how that is, but people are clinging to that. And then, you know, what's the alternative to that? Well, Rip Van Reagan, you have Biden, who is a neocon. Biden is a neocon.
Right. But
and then over on the other side, what do you have?
What do you have? Definitely more lefty, at least. I mean,
maybe compared to those two, but I mean, Marianne, I mean, but again, there's not going to be an actual primary.
No, so, I mean, again, I guess what I don't, hang on, Ron, I guess what I'm not kind of comprehending is why these individuals don't like Marianne Williamson, but they like RFK, but they're saying that they're leftists, like they're
I have no
left.
idea.
I just
don't
have
understand. No idea. You're talking about a portion of an online left that I pay that I guess I'm not really abreast to because I don't really have a take on that, and I can't read anybody's mind. You know, if somebody in the chat wants to give us some thoughts, like if they feel that way, like by all means. And then on the other side, on the Republican side, you have DeSantis, who I think is a Nazi, or you have Trump, who, has trouble denouncing Nazis. And
I mean,
those
who's
are your
very
choices.
authoritarian. But I mean, again, but Trump was put up as an anti-establishment guy, and he's not anti-establishment either.
Which is comically absurd.
He's part of the billionaire class. These guys both are. They're wealthy elites. They come from wealthy families. They have a lot of money, own a lot of property, have paid and bought for many politicians throughout their lives. Like, there's just no way these folks are anti-establishment. That's I don't know what I'm saying.
No, I'm with you. I mean, and I think it's because...
Hang on. Marianne is terrible on Ukraine and Palestine, but Tina likes her. I don't know, Jack, where you're getting that from. I don't necessarily like Marianne Williamson, okay? I have a lot of problems with a lot of her positions. Here's the thing. People need to understand. We can kind of root through opinions on things, other people's opinions on things, what other people are saying or doing. That doesn't mean it's necessarily what we personally think. Let's just be clear on that. I think Marianne, I'll give you my opinion right now. I think Marianne Williamson is very problematic in a lot of areas. I think she does have some good positions on other things, though, as well. So,
yeah, I mean, I would echo that when it comes to her. There's some things I agree. And one thing I'll give her is that she has changed her position in the past on things. At first she was not great on Assange, and then she kind of, changed her position on that.
okay.
So, I share those concerns. And one of the things is, and again, I would like to see those debates because, again,
I agree.
On RFK's website, I liked what it said about Russia, Ukraine, and I would love to see that on a debate stage,
Right.
regardless of the fact that I'm
We
not
all benefit from
enthusiastic about the
debate,
guy.
right? Here's the thing. The American public would benefit from a debate with all of these candidates. Whether you agree on everything they have to say or not, we would all benefit from that. I think having them all talk it out and airing their positions would be a good thing, and we should support that.
Yeah.
The
Well,
Democratic
and
Party is
also,
never going
to give Marianne Williams one, it's like, or give Marianne Williamson one, like she's for Medicare for all.
Yeah.
I
100%.
don't
Yeah, agree
hear
with her on that.
anything from RFK about Medicare
doubt
for all.
that
I
he
don't
is.
know. You don't think he's
If
for
he
it?
had been Medicare for all, he would have supported Bernie Sanders, not Hillary Clinton twice. I just think
That's a good point.
My only point with Marianne Williamson on this was that her political values, like supporting Medicare for all and things of this nature, seem more in line with the group that hates her, and I just having a hard time trying to figure out why that is. That's all I'm saying.
You should ask them. I mean, whatever these online, like this online stuff you're hinting at, you should ask them. That's a question for them. That's an interview for them. That's a question for them.
Fair.
If you're asking me, the guy who, someone asked me, what are you hoping for in 2024? My response, a second passport. Because I think we are at the beginning of the worst. Right. And that's why, I haven't really done a ton of, I haven't given much bandwidth to RFK. I haven't given much bandwidth to Marianne Williamson. The only reason I'm giving it bandwidth today is because you and Jordan wanted to talk about it. The only reason I've given bandwidth to Marianne Williamson in the past is because other people wanted to talk about it on other shows. I'll talk about it. If you're looking for enthusiasm around 2024, I ain't your freaking guy. Unless you want me to lie.
No, I have no enthusiasm for 20. I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm out there.
I've never seen less enthusiasm for a presidential debate. And again, that's why I think it is. Because we came close to a status quo shifting situation and we lost. So now it's kind of just these fragmented, kind of like contrarian for contrarian's sake lanes.
Oh, I agree with that.
That people are clinging to. And let's be honest, Biden's part of that. I mean, Biden is also part of that too. That guy's a freaking neocon. That guy's a freaking neocon who's been on the wrong side of everything for 50 goddamn years, and he's failed his way up into the presidency.
Right.
And I fail to see. Regardless of how terrible, the only person who I think could be worse than Joe Biden, the only person I think is Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis is by far the most dangerous person in American politics. I think that guy is a straight up Nazi. I think what that guy is trying to do in Florida is freaking chilling to the nth degree. And if that guy gets anywhere near the White House, that is frightening beyond comprehension. And he's probably going to. If he doesn't get the nod this time around, he'll probably get it in 2028 if we have a presidential election in 2028.
I hope not, because he wants theocracy. Yeah. No, it's bad. I agree, it's bad. We're in a very bad place. Our candidates, what our choices are very terrible across the board.
Our choices are beyond terrible. Beyond terrible. No one freaking deserves this. I mean, this is no country deserves the fucking just slop salad that we have in this country. And it's like, and even if there was,
the country has to offer runs for president, it's like crazy. It's
even
like,
if there was like some kind of outsider who excited like full groups of people, like they wouldn't get a chance anyway.
Right.
They wouldn't get a freaking chance anyway, because the DNC has made it clear, like we're gonna, like we're not gonna have debates. We're decided. We're gonna prop up Rip Van Reagan again. And we know how powerful the DNC, even when they say they're not going to do that, they do that. We know what the DNC is capable of when it comes to the Democratic establishment. We saw them kneecap Bernie twice.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, if people want to frickin', like go back and forth about RFK, I mean, go for it. To me, it sounds like a huge fucking waste of batteries.
I agree. This is I shot my wad with this today. I don't know that I would travel back and talk about this guy again. I just was kind of.
Well, it's a long way till 2024.
All right. Yeah, I should never say never, right? I mean, I don't know.
Do you think they'll both end up? I mean, because I think at the end of the day, they're both going to end up endorsing Biden.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, RFK said he's a nice guy.
He said he was never going to endorse Biden, but I think that's bullshit. Eventually will too. That's what they
didn't he say he was a nice guy? Maybe I'm mistaken for something else.
No, he did.
He said a lot of the people in the CIA are nice people, even though he said like in other times they're like he might dismantle them. Like,
what would Joe McCarthy do, man? That's what I want to know.
There's no heroes out there, so people are clinging to political fan fiction. That's what's happening. And it's not just limited to Trump or RFK or anybody. It's all over the place. It's all over the place. And it's also the neoliberals who pretend like nothing's going on. It's also the people who pretend it's time to go back to brunch because Biden's in. They're playing political fan fiction too. And if you're looking around and you're going, what the fuck? This place is nutso. I don't fit in any of these lanes. I have nowhere to turn. Guess what? You're not alone. You're not alone. Tina's here.
Alone.
I'm here. You're not alone. We have this show. So by all means, tune in. If you want to look at a title and have a freaking meltdown before you even start a conversation, you can do that too.
Yeah,
whatever you want to do.
Whatever, man.
Be you. Be yourself. Tina responds to the chat in real time. Sometimes instead of responding to me. Keeps it interesting.
All right. So let's do some super chats.
Yeah. So we got let's see. We got Dave L. What's up, buddy? I'm tired of watching unions going on strike without a donate button on their web pages. Take care of that, would you? I wish I could. I'm with you, Dave. I'm with you.
Is there some reason that they can't take donations, I wonder? Like a legal thing? I actually don't know. But you're right. I've never seen one.
I think it depends on the sitch.
Note
but
to
yeah.
self. I'm gonna look into that actually. Can unions take? My question is, can unions take donations from non-members? All right.
I actually don't know the answer to that. I mean, I think
either.
it might depend. It might depend on the union. I'm not sure. But yeah. Yeah. So there you go. What else do we got here? Is there anything else you want to respond to, Tina?
No.
And folks, please, we'll get to your super chat, please, by all means. That's the only one we have in the queue so far, but please, by all means.
It's a slow chat day.
Yeah,
right.
it is.
Any interesting comments, Colin? Did you pull up any interesting comments that
someone asked me if I'm from Pennsylvania? I am. Sometimes when I get animated, my Pennsylvania accent comes out, I think it did. Yeah. Somebody compared RFK supporters to the Yang Gang.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Kind of interesting.
Well, because he's kind of known for like he's known for his anti-vax views, and like the Yang Gang, it was like
UBI.
Andrew Yang. And I will say one of the things that they did was they kind of painted Andrew Yang into being something he wasn't because of the UBI thing. They were like, oh yeah, no, he's left, he's this. He wasn't any of those things. He didn't actually support Medicare for all. The mask came off there. He was for dismantling all social services. He was basically like a tech libertarian. And that's fine. Like, that's not an insult. That's just an accurate description of where he was at politically. I don't know if he's still there. I don't know. But like, but everyone like was really into the UBI thing, which I do applaud the guy for bringing it into the conversation.
Yeah, I do.
I do applaud that. So I guess I do see the kind of similarity there where it's like, well, people who are real excited about RFK, that one thing might make them paint him into something.
It's a one issue thing, right? They love this one issue so much that we're going to backpedal these other things in because we love this one issue so much. You know what? That makes sense. That's a good comment. Whoever came up with that analysis, that's a good point.
It was actually a Russian. Colin, can you pull it up? Do you know what I'm talking about? It was a Russian screen name or avatar. Or what's the thing? What's screen name? Man, I'm dating myself.
Handle?
Who's going to be on AIM later? Yeah, there we go.
Are you going to dial in with
I'm going to dial in.
Okay. On
but
whatever that was, modems.
Yeah.
Okay, RFK supporters are the worst online, no different from. Oh, okay. So they're yeah. No.
So I see the analogy. I mean, I see the analogy. I don't know. Twitter's just not fun anymore, and it was never fun. Well, it actually was. It used to be more fun.
Now.
It's way less fun. It used to be more fun. You used to at least be able to get trending topics, and you can't anymore, which is a really big bummer. And I think Twitter suppresses all links unless you pay, and it really I feel like to get benefit, like value out of that platform, eventually it's like you're either going to have to pay or the value is just going to keep diminishing.
I'm definitely not going to pay.
I don't plan on it. I mean, I don't think there's ever a situation where I would. I get why some people want to be able to upload the longer videos and want their tweets to be seen.
Here's the thing.
I do get it.
It would make sense if they had kept that separate. Like initially when they offered that option, it was $2.99 a month, and I paid for it because I found it for my work. I found it like exceedingly helpful, and it was $2.99. Plus I had paid subscribers on Twitter that could see the longer video. So for me, it was like, yeah, $2.99, 100% see the point of this. But when he made it $8 a month and then tied it to some sort of bullshit status thing with blue checks, that was just really stupid.
Yeah.
If he had left this a separate service that they offered, all kinds of people would have kept that.
Well, did you see that now? And this is why I said what I just said, because I'm like, man, I think it's getting to the point where like if you don't pay for it, you're just not going to get any value out of the website. Twitter blue people can upload 2-hour videos now.
Oh, kill me. Fucking kill me. I mean, listen, I can't take a lot of these Twitter blue trolls because that's what they are. They're like reply guy trolls. Some of them are literal Nazis, like White Lives Matter has their account verified now because they paid for it. So it's just, and he's giving them priority. So you log in and you're like, and you can block them and you will still see them. It's like, I just don't even want to log on anymore. There's nothing of value there. This does not contribute to my life in any meaningful way. Yeah, it's bad. Anyway,
it's a bummer. I mean,
Twitter, I agree. Joe Francis is right. Forget Twitter. It's over.
I want a Blue Sky invite. Does someone have one? Please.
I have one coming. I have one coming, and you will be my first person I give one to.
You're getting invites?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right. You got to give me an invite.
Okay.
I claim your. Yeah. You might only get a couple, so I'm claiming the first one.
It's one a week, so.
All right. Well, I claim as soon as you don't have to. I don't have to be first, but I want early dibs. I want that Blue Sky. I want to be on Blue Sky. It's like. I feel like whenever
I just think they don't have the bandwidth yet to open it up to the public.
I want an invite to the party.
I think when they do, though, it's just going to be like everybody's going to run over there. Yes, Tony, you can have one too. Like if I could give out 100 of these things, I would. I think when they finally get the bandwidth and it's all up and running, like right now they don't have video capability either. But when they do, I think Twitter's done. Put a pitchfork in it. put a pitchfork in it.
I think it's gonna just go the way of like Gab or whatever. Like all
Friendster.
those.
Wait, who remembers Friendster?
I think it'll still have its place because like Elon's got his
MySpace.
fanboys and stuff. I think it'll be like Truth. It'll be Elon's Truth Social, basically.
Yeah.
That's what I
agree.
think will
Yeah,
happen.
that's probably about right.
So, you know,
probably
and,
about
and
right.
yeah, I think Blue Sky, because here's the thing, like a lot of people don't realize that for these platforms, because I know like there's a lot of like startup platforms that are trying, and I want to see, I would love to see something like Pancake succeed. I hope they do. But like a lot of times you have to understand that you're competing with like Wall Street runway cash. And what that is, folks, is, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people already know what that is, but like it basically means it's the amount of cash that a bunch of Wall Street investors who have very deep pockets give you to kind of do your thing. And if you can't compete with that, you're just eventually going to fizzle out. Or even if you have some startup cash, if you're not at the level they want to see you at, which means like Facebook or Google, basically, they're just going to cut off. They're going to pull the plug. And so if you don't have that, you're not going to be the next Twitter or the next Facebook. It's just not going to happen. And so that's why Jack Dorsey, who I think is behind Blue Sky, you know, and then there's plenty of criticism about him.
He's just on. So I looked into that because I thought that was the case too. He's just on the board of directors.
The guy.
He's not the guy.
All right, so he's on the board of directors.
The founder and CEO is actually a woman, and then the chief tech person is also a woman. So it's two women actually.
Is it Barbara Lee?
No, he did give them seed capital to start. Like,
well, but they have whatever his gig is. They have that runway cash to compete.
Not just his. They have others too. So, but I didn't know that. Yeah,
they
so
got
I mean,
other. No, I mean, hey, I want to see it do good because I mean, Twitter was a convenient tool and it was better. It was never. It always had its issues. It was the
public forum for like journalists and activists and other folks to get online and all mesh together and have conversations. It was a valuable tool, I think, and I think now it's destroyed. It's upended.
Yeah, because you could at
all
least
the things that made it great are just like.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this a bunch. We don't, but yeah, I mean, it's I don't know the whole. How did we get on that?
I don't know. You and I,
yeah. I think a lot of times it like sort of goes into that. But yeah. Well, I think we covered it. The important things, guys, is 2024, most important election of our lifetimes. It's a very big deal, and.
It's so not.
It's so sad. It's so sad. I've never seen less enthusiasm for a president, and reasonably so. I know it's still early.
Like I have side eye for anybody that has enthusiasm for this.
How can you?
How can you?
How can you? Like, I mean, like it's like there's nothing to be excited about. Like just nothing, and it's so. I mean, my honest guess, and some of you in the chat were asking, I was doing a series for a little bit about leaving the United States. And some of you were asking, based on the tone of today's show, I guess, if something's going to happen with that. And the short answer is yes. I am looking into doing some cross-pollination with an organization out there called Plan to Leave, and we're gonna get some kind of content going. Dave asked, who do you even vote for?
Yeah,
honestly, I'll probably vote for whoever the green is. Probably. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'll either vote for like if the socialists run somebody or the green. That's probably who I'll vote for. I guarantee I'm not going to vote for Biden.
Yeah, the more important part of the election will be local, will be state level, will be
of course,
things of that nature. Your state, state legal legislation, things like that.
Everything I say about electoralism doesn't apply to local. Local's the exception. Like local is where
all
you can actually. Yeah, they say that, except it's not true, though. Local politics are local, and they're the most freaking important. And they're the ones.
I think that's what they mean by it, that it's the most important.
No. I feel you. It's a good sentiment. It's a good sentiment. But, yeah. I hear you. But yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, please look, people out there, instead of pontificating endlessly about a non-existent fucking primary or trying to cling to non-existent heroes or creating political fan fiction on one whether it's on the Democratic establishment side or the Republican establishment side, instead of doing that, go out and meet your freaking neighbors and join a neighborhood council and start composting and know where your community gardens are. And hey, maybe run for city council or talk to some of the people on your city council. Just for fuck's sake, folks, just please, please just give it a try. Just give it a try. Or support different campaigns and causes, like causes for public banks, causes for municipal broadband, causes for digital rights, causes for net neutrality, causes for LGBTQIA rights, causes for long living wages and unions and strikes. I know it's not as sexy. I know it doesn't get the clicks, but you know what? That's not what we're all about here. We're all about telling you the stories of what's going on in East Palestine, what's going on in Michigan, what's going on across the country, what they're doing to the working class. That's what we're all about. We're all about strikes. We're all about movements, because that's the only way there's ever going to be change. That's the only frickin' way. So, peace.
I agree with that. Well said. Well said. All right. So tomorrow on Right Wing Insanity Report, Bragman's going to be on it. We're going to be talking about his new piece, Dark Money, Republican Dark Money. This is really an interesting story. So there's a Chinese dissident who came to the United States, and he's anti-communist, obviously, but he was in trouble over there for some fraud stuff, comes to the United States, and now he's in trouble here. The Department of Justice has indicted him for money laundering, fraud, and a whole host of things. He's a very wealthy guy, connections to Steve Bannon and a bunch of other folks. But Walker's done this deep dive into some of the astroturfing and fake media placements that he had engaged in. So we're going to be doing that interview. Also coverage of RuPaul's Drag Con last week. We had some street preachers that showed up and tried to create a ruckus. They were kind of chased off. And then, in case you missed it, Tuberville has now come out and made statements that got released this week. We had the audio from Democracy Now!, where he's basically, in a roundabout way, saying white nationalists in the military is a okay, good thing. And if you have a problem with that, you're not really American.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's bad. If you haven't heard this
again,
audio
folks,
yet.
This is what happens. Seriously, folks, 2 book suggestions. Anatomy of a Revolution. You read that book, it'll make a lot more sense why we are where we are. When you see a revolution fail, people cling to political fan fiction, and that's what's happening in this country. Yeah. And it's happening frickin' everywhere. And read the book Debt by David Graeber. It's a long one, and by the way, David Graeber, rest in power, lost him way too soon, but read that frickin' book. You'll never think about debt the same way again. And when you hear Wall Street politicians bicker about, we got to slash everything because of the debt ceiling and stuff, it will infuriate you even freaking more than it does now, to the point where you will be screaming to stop a fucking video. All right. So.
No, I mean, it was fine. I get it. I was like, yeah, I mean, like, we're almost to the end, but sure.
All right. This is Status Coup.
Thanks
signing
for joining
out.
us
Peace.
today. Peace.
Peace.